Welcome back everybody, I'm Pep, you're watching Sentinel. I am not a big drinker of alcohol. I do like the occasional one just to unwind. What I do like more is the smell of some alcohol, and what I'm going to talk about today is a few of my fragrances in my collection that have nice boozy notes or accords, and no reviewing, just going through some of them and the different booze that they're trying to emulate in the fragrance. So let's go ahead. Alright, welcome back. So I have already done videos talking about different accords in fragrances. I've done a video talking about some of my favorite leather fragrances. I've also done one talking about some of my favorite tobacco fragrances, and also exploring a little bit the variations you can find within those groups. So there is another group of fragrances that I'm quite a fan of, and it's obvious because I already own several of them, and that is the boozy accord. Now, boozy to me just means that there's something in the fragrance that reminds me of the smell of some kind of alcoholic beverage, and that could mean, in this case, anything from rum to champagne to Scotch whiskey to cocktails and red wine. The first one that I discovered that really reminded me of booze, and that is Mugler's Pure Malt, the flanker to AMN. So you look at the note breakdown of this in Fragrantica. There's actually no specific booze note listed. There is dried fruits, there is malt, and there's also peat, and I think all of those together really give it that aged in oak barrel kind of boozy smell. This is Pure Malt is absolutely delicious. It's sweet. I love wearing it, and it's probably now a classic in terms of boozy fragrances. So that's Pure Malt, one I think everyone should try. Probably a really good one to get into when you start exploring boozy fragrances, and then really there's no limit to what's out there. So next ones I want to talk about Bentley for Men Intense and Idole by Luban. The reason I'm talking about these two together is that because apparently Bentley for Men Intense, which is a lot cheaper fragrance than this one here, is supposed to smell quite similar to Idole, and I think in this video I'm going to just do a quick spray of each, because I haven't taken much time to actually compare either of them. So I'm just going to spray Bentley on this wrist, and the Idole in this one. Okay, pretty similar opening. The Luban probably is a bit of a stronger opening. And the Luban actually in the opening reminds me of Scotch and Coke. That's the immediate thing I get straight away. The Bentley is a little bit more restrained, and I'm not getting much of the cola that I'm getting with the Luban. The Bentley also becomes muted a little bit quicker, but there are similarities. I haven't, I'm not going to have time in this video to sort of examine and compare the dry downs of either one of them, but I know that the Bentley Intense for Men has gotten great reviews since it's been released, and there are a lot of fans of it, and I'm a fan of it. But I've kind of lusted over this bottle for a while. I finally got myself a bottle and it is beautiful. At the moment, it is my favorite boozy fragrance, and that's Idolf by Luban, but there's probably a couple of $100 in price difference between these two bottles. All right, so the next one I'll talk about is this is my decant of 1270 by Frappan. I have made a video about this fragrance. Again, this one doesn't have any specific booze listed as a note. There is a bunch of notes in this one, but what we have here is combination of dried fruit accords along with plum and other fruits like pineapple. And what you smell with this one is very fermenting dried fruit accord, which can remind you of some kind of liqueur, even brandy. And I believe Frappan actually originally was a maker of brandy and cognac, and they've been around for hundreds of years apparently, and they moved into making fragrances, but they really captured that essence with this fragrance. Again, in my video, this is a beautiful fragrance. The only issue with this one is longevity, performance, but it's such a treat to smell on the skin. Moving on, something a little bit different in the boozy stakes, and a lot of people discuss this particular fragrance as a vanilla-y, sweet, even tobacco fragrance. There's a lot of tonka and vanilla in this one, and there's actually no tobacco listed, but because it is called Sweet Tobacco Spirits by 1821 Man-Made, I think there's a lot of assumptions that there's tobacco in this, but I don't ever really smell any. But what note is listed in this one is actually a red wine note, and just on the back of my hand you do pick up that overtone of red wine, but it's almost as if it's red wine mixed with chocolate. That's the immediate thing I get. So cocoa and red wine, and I know it sounds like a really weird combination, but in this it works. It's very thick, it's very gourmandish, this fragrance. But an example where perhaps it's not a booze dominant fragrance, but there is a booze note used very interestingly in this one. That's 1821 Sweet Tobacco Spirits, particularly for the red wine note in this. It makes it very interesting and really kind of sets it apart from all the other type of vanilla-y tobacco sweet fragrances that are out there. Alright, so the next one on my list is my little decant of Ombre Rosé by Parfum d'Empire. This is amber, but there are notes of vodka and champagne in it. Obviously the vodka being a reference to the name Russian amber, and in the opening it's really quite a lovely, I really love this fragrance. Just a beautiful vodka, and the champagne is there, so it's vodka and champagne at the same time, and you can make them both out, but it's as if you're having a champagne vodka cocktail, I guess. Not that I've had that before, but I know what vodka smells like, I know what champagne smells like, even though vodka technically doesn't really have a smell, but that essence is there. That's Ombre Rosé by Parfum d'Empire. Alright, so the last one in my collection that I'll talk about is Oscar de la Renta Gentleman's, a fairly new release, I think last year, and this one actually has a champagne note in it. And I'm just going to grab a test strip because I've sprayed all over my skin here. Yeah, there is definitely champagne vibe there, and I think what's used in here are aldehydes as well, and my understanding with aldehydes is that they can give this illusory effect of fizziness. This is quite a nice fragrance. It's pretty cheap to get at the moment, but only drawback with this one is it doesn't have a lot of lasting power, but it's a lovely all year round fragrance. I think it's very fresh, and that champagne note is very light. Now, apart from the ones I've got in my collection, you've also got stuff in particular by Killian. Killian Hennessy is an heir to the Hennessy Cognac company, if you didn't know that. So a couple of his fragrances are quite inspired by cognac. I think Back to Black is got a cognac influence. I think that he's got one called Vodka on the Rocks, Apple Brandy. Now they're very expensive and I haven't tried them myself, but my point is that there are a lot of fragrances out there if you want to start exploring boozy accords or boozy influenced fragrances. And there's also stuff that I've actually still got. I've got Virgin Island water, and in there you've got white rum and that sort of pina colada vibe. I think you also have Guerlain L'Homme, L'Eau Boissée. There's some lime. There's a bit of a mojito vibe going on there. There's plenty out there, but as you can see, I've got several bottles there that already have that boozy influence in them, and I quite like it. Along with leather and tobacco, it's up there with my favourites. And it's a good way to explore different fragrances if you've only stuck to a particular type. Again, there are cheap options, there are very expensive options here, but all of them are great. Are very good fragrances and good representations of what they're trying to achieve. So that was my take on my favourite boozy fragrances. I want to hear about yours, obviously, in the comments. I much prefer that you comment and interact with me on my videos. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe or give me a thumbs up, but if you comment, I always appreciate it, and I always try and respond to those comments. So until the next video, thank you very much, and I'll see you then.